It was the most important business meeting of his life. Young John had this idea that he knew if he could just get the right pieces in place, it would make a ton of money. Now, there was a very rich businessman in New York that John had been trying to get in front of forever, and he was finally able to set an appointment. And he had planned everything. He knew his intro story. He had his charts. He had his reasons. He knew that this businessman in New York would see the genius of his idea, would back him, and they would both make a ton of money. Well, on the way to the train station, John was like, I got to stop and pray. He was a Christian, and he believed that God cared about him. And so on his way to the train station, he stopped off at the church. He had time. The train wasn't going to take off for a while. And he just prayed and he prayed and he asked God to guide him. He asked God to give him peace. He asked God to give him the right words to say, to soften the heart of this businessman, to help this idea take off so it could actually help a lot of other people. And after he'd prayed for a while, he went outside and he got back in his carriage and he started going to the train station. And then things started to fall apart. Actually, the carriage started to fall apart. Something broke and it wouldn't go any further, and John got out and he was trying to fix the carriage, and he's looking at his watch and he's feeling the seconds tick by, and he had time. He had time to stop and have some leisurely prayers at the church and still be on time, but now that his carriage was broken down, he wasn't sure if he was going to make his train, and so he started to stress and he started to panic, and he was working on fixing the carriage, and he's like, okay, I don't think this is going to work, and he's like, I guess I could run to the train station. And he looked and he had his luggage and he had all of his presentation materials, and he's like, all right, I'm leaving the luggage behind. And he grabbed his charts and his briefcase that had his information in it, and he started running to the train station. And he was in his nice clothes. I mean, he was going to get off the train station, go to this man's office, and do the presentation. But he didn't care. He just had to get there. And so he's running, and he's running through the muddy streets, and he's getting dirty, and he's starting to sweat. And he makes it to the train station. And he rushes to the ticket counter, and the ticket operator says, I'm sorry, sir, your train is already gone. And John is devastated. I mean, what is he going to do? He's going to have to call this very important, very rich businessman and just reschedule? Well, why are you rescheduling? Well, I couldn't make it to my train on time. Do you want to do business with me? Oh, my goodness. And the voices in John's head were just beating him down. How, you idiot. You stopped and prayed in a church, and you had a carriage that broke down. Like, this is bad. This is bad. But John couldn't do anything except take a little money that he had and send a telegram to New York telling the businessman that he wasn't going to be able to make it, trying to reschedule. Well, it took John a couple of weeks to reschedule with this businessman. Unfortunately for him, the businessman was understanding and let him have another meeting. But in the meantime, John learned that the train that he was supposed to be on, that a bridge had been weakened by a storm, and when the train was going over this bridge, the bridge had collapsed, and the train had crashed into a deep ravine. And every single soul on that train died. And John couldn't believe it. If he hadn't stopped and prayed in that church, he would have died. You see, in that church, he had prayed for God to give him the right words, to give him the right timing, to guide his steps. And then when his carriage broke down, he didn't realize that was God slowing him down. When he was running through the streets, he didn't realize God was actually saving his life. And later when John sat in front of Mr. Vanderbilt and pitched his idea, and Mr. Vanderbilt said, John Rockefeller, that is an amazing idea. I think we're going to be very successful. He didn't know that God was guiding him. Do you ever feel like John Rockefeller? Not the John Rockefeller who made millions and millions of dollars and became one of the richest men in America. I'm talking about young John, running through the streets, sweat dripping down your back, holding all your stuff together, cursing yourself because your carriage broke down, because you stopped and prayed, and now you're going to miss the opportunity of a lifetime, and there go your dreams. Well, the book of Job says that strength and success come from God. And sometimes when things are happening in our life that aren't what we want, it's for our greatest good. You know, there's another verse in the Bible that says all things work together for good for those who love God. And what that means is instead of trying to explain our way out of everything and question God when things don't hit the right way for us, we just need to trust in Him. My carriage broke down. I choose to trust in Him. I lost my job. I choose to trust in Him. I got sick. I choose to trust in Him. You see, Jesus said, in this world you will have trouble. But take courage. I have overcome the world. You know, there's nowhere in the Bible that promises once you give your life to God or when you take some time and pray in church that He will give you a golden road and you'll have everything you want. In fact, if you study all the Bible characters, they went through a lot of trauma. Joseph, oh my goodness, look at his life. Moses, Jesus, okay, these people, they had hard times. But God was with them in their hard times, and He brought all of them out to a greater glory. John Rockefeller made his millions. Joseph became second in command. Moses was raised from the dead early and got to go to heaven in front of all of us. And Jesus promises that kind of glory for you and for me. And while that might not mean your book's going to be a bestseller, while that might not mean you're going to make the $1 million like Rockefeller, God's like, you know what? I got something even better. If your dreams don't come true now, well, the Bible says, eye has not seen, ear has not heard what God has in store for those who trust in Him. All things work together for good for those who love God. So the next time you miss your train, instead of cursing yourself or questioning God, choose to trust in Him. Because, hey, God's got this. God bless.